Bold claim. Shatta Wale is the biggest artist in Africa currently. This is not hyperbole. I have the math and science to prove this. So, Shatta Wale's manager, Sammy Flex, said 300,000 people attended ShattaFest 2025. And I thought this number be some BS. I am a researcher with access to machine learning tools. So my second thought was, I'm about to prove Sammy Flex wrong. And my findings will shock you. Before I share that with you, my name is Nenebi Tony. I'm a Ghanaian writer who lives in the US. I wrote a book about Ghana's entertainment industry because I used to work in entertainment in Ghana. But today, we are not going to talk about entertainment from the aspect of fun. We are going to talk about it from the aspect of numbers, math, science. And like I said, I live in Dallas, Texas, so I wasn't at ShattaFest last Saturday. So how can I prove Sammy Flex wrong? One of the ways I could have done that would have been to ask him to produce the number of tickets sold, but it was a free concert, so there was no tickets sold. So I decided to use something else. There is something called crowd science. Crowd science is the study of how a large group of people move, behave, and occupy space. Crowd science uses math, physics, and other scientific tools to calculate crowd density. Crowd density simply means the audience size. So today, you're about to use science to calculate the audience size. To do that, you're going to use a simple mathematical tool called direct proportion, which we all learned in JSS. You know, that thing where if it took 3 people 5 minutes to dig a hole, how many minutes will it take 10 people? That is inverse proportion. But direct proportion is like a simpler version of inverse proportion. So to do that, we need some numbers. And I'm not going to make up the numbers. I'm going to use real life numbers from ShattaFest to do this calculation. So first, let's start with what we call the usable ground. Usable ground means where would the audience be standing? Where did they stand? At the Independence Square. The size of the Independence Square is 24 acres. But they didn't stand at every part of the Independence Square. We have the Independence Arc at, I'm going to use Independence Square and Black Star Square interchangeably, forgive me, at the Black Star Square. They have the stage at the Black Star Square. They have a statue of the unknown soldier at the Black Star Square. They have lawns at the Black Star Square, right? So if you take all these things that are not human beings out, the human beings have about 65 to 75% space out of the 24 acres. And that number should give you about 68,000 to 74,000 square meters. I'm changing to square meters because it will make it easier for us to do our calculation. So now we know that the people stood at a place of 68,000 to 74,000 square meters. And we know that the place was full to capacity. Yes. From the pictures, we know that. Now, how does this number give us the crowd size? We use something called the International Building Code. International Building Code have some requirements for what a crowd density is supposed to be. Supposed to be that when you are having a concert, about 4 people should occupy 1 feet, which means that about 4 people should occupy 2 square meters for people to move freely. But based on, I use machine learning to gauge how the crowd look compared to the code. And it looks like at a conservative estimate, 5 people were occupying each feet, which means that 5 people were occupying each 2 square meters. So, if I were like somebody who was a building code conductor or inspector, tankas, I would punish Shatta Wale for booking overcrowded place for the event. That's not what we are looking at here. So we are going to use 5 per 2 square meters and multiply it by the 68,000 square meters or up to 74,000 square meters. When we do that, what do we find? What do we get? We get about 160,000 to 190,000 people. So let's say 180,000, or let's use the mean, 175,000 people at the Independence Square alone, using crowd density math. Shatta Wale had 175,000 people at the Independence Square alone. Now, drone photos and other images and videos let us know that the crowd spilled over, which is also a technical term in crowd science. The crowd spilled over towards the Accra Sports Stadium and the Atamils Highway. So that makes sense because whenever Ghana have a concert or we have any event at the Independence Square, we broke the road all the way to the Atamils Highway and all the way to the stadium to give the police control over space, right? So the spillover, we are going to be a little bit less. The spillover was not as intense as the Independence Square itself because people were moving a bit, not as much, a bit freer than they did at, the Independence Square itself. So when you add a spillover to the Independence Square, you are having to use, and you use 2 per square meter, and you add it to the 175, you have about 290,000. Now, 290,000 is my conservative estimate of how many people were at the Independence Square and spilled over to the road around for ShattaFest. That proves that Sammy Flex number was actually correct. Because when I try to use 2.5 or 5 per feet, you have about 340,000 people at the concert, which is a possibility. So it is possible that about 250 to 350,000 people were at the Independence Square. This is a provable scientific number. And even if we move away from science and use history, 1971, Ghana hosted what was called the biggest concert in African history. There is actually a documentary on it that was shown on TV stations in America in 1971. Yeah. It was when Tina Turner, and others came to Ghana for the Soul to Soul concert, and it happened at the Independence Square. And reports at the time said that concert had 100,000 people. Yeah. So the biggest concert in the history of Ghana to this point was 100,000 people. For a very long time, it was the biggest concert in Africa. These days, we've had people like Fally Ipupa and the rest have concerts with 125,000 people and 150,000 people. So, Shatta Wale number is about 3 times the biggest concert ever in the history of Ghana. And the Soul to Soul concert, when it happened, was a mind-blowing event that the whole world talked about. They did a whole movie on it. Why? Because it was American celebrities that did it. Shatta Wale is a Ghanaian celebrity who have tripled the number Ike and Tina Turner did in 1971 in Ghana at the same venue Ike and Tina Turner used in Ghana. I urge you to go look at the Tina Turner concert. Bro, electrifying. So it tells us that Ghana has a history of doing this, staging huge concerts. Let me shock you about with this thing that happened around this time. So the king of soul, James Brown, did an Africa concert before 1971. He went to Nigeria and I think Zambia or Zimbabwe, one of those two countries, and didn't come to Ghana. And Ghanaians said, you know what? We are going to make you regret this. And so we did the Soul to Soul concert, which became the biggest concert in the history of Africa. And so historically, Shatta Wale is proven right too. What else do you need me to use to prove this? Now, people are saying that the concert was packed because it was free. The biggest concert in the history of the world happened in 1994 in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. That concert had 3.5 million people on a New Year's Eve. That concert was a free concert. Actually, if you look at the top 10 biggest concerts in the history of the world, every single one of them was a free concert. What happens is you have star power and you multiply it with a huge venue and add the fact that people want to see this person with star power and you have a huge concert. That is the metric. That has been the formula in the history of the world. The first concert, the biggest, you know what? Let me not even go there. As it stands now, nobody in Ghana has been able to replicate this. I have done concerts in Ghana. I've done free concerts in Ghana that had 200 people. I've done free concerts in Newtown and Nima that had about 5,000 people, not even get up to 10,000 people. So it's not the fact that it was free. It was the fact that it was free with somebody with star power to get the number Shatta Wale got. You understand? We need to celebrate our heroes. We need to celebrate our superstars. We need to celebrate our icons while they are still alive and use this opportunity to sell them to the world. Like I said, there was a movie done about the Soul to Soul concert that happened in Ghana in 1971. We can do a movie about this Shatta Wale concert and show the world that as part of Ghana's Dirty December campaign, Ghana knows how to have a good time more than any other country in Africa. That's what I wanted to end with, because on this channel, my goal is to talk about Ghana's international relations and foreign policy. And this concert, in my opinion, falls under the umbrella of soft power and culture use in international relations. We need to maximize it. We need to let the world know that we too we dey. Subscribe to this channel if you like intellectual conversations.